Did you know that in a recent interview, Usman Khawaja revealed he didn't support the Australian cricket team until he was 14? Intrigued? Stick around as we explore why Cricket Australia is a subject of disdain, even among its own diverse population. Why don't South Asians in Australia support their own cricket team? Cricket in Australia is a big deal, like how soccer is in Brazil or baseball in the US. But there's a puzzle here. A lot of people from South Asian countries, like India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, live in Australia. They love cricket. But many of them don't cheer for the Australian team. Why? Usman Khawaja, a cricket star who was born in Pakistan but plays for Australia, talked about this. He said that when he was younger, he didn't feel a connection with the Australian team. It's like being in a room full of people, but not having anyone to talk to because no one's like you. Many young people in Australia, whose families come from South Asian countries, feel the same way. They play cricket at school, watch matches on TV, but when the Australian team plays, they don't feel that excitement. It's like loving music but not feeling the beat of a particular song. This makes us wonder, what's missing? Why is there this gap? Usman's story gives us some clues, and as we listen more, we'll find out the real reasons behind this feeling. What's wrong with the public image of Australian cricketers? You might think that being a star athlete would make you universally loved, right? Well, not exactly. Usman Khawaja, in his eye-opening interview, described the Australian cricket team as brash, stubborn, beer-drinking white Australians. These aren't just random words, they paint a vivid picture of the type of people who were racially vilifying him while he was growing up. So, what happens when the heroes you see on TV remind you of the bullies you encounter in real life? You disconnect. Khawaja's experience isn't an isolated one, it's a sentiment echoed by many young Australians from diverse backgrounds. They look at the screen and struggle to find a role model, someone who looks like them or shares their experiences. Instead, they see figures who seem to perpetuate the very stereotypes and prejudices that make their daily lives challenging. This disconnect isn't just about the players on the field, it's a reflection of broader societal issues. When the faces of a national team don't represent the diversity of the nation itself, it sends a troubling message. It tells these young Australians that this celebrated institution, this source of national pride, isn't for them. And that's a problem that goes way beyond cricket, seeping into the fabric of the country's identity. So, as we ponder this, we also have to ask, how can a sport so deeply ingrained in Australia's culture fail to represent its diverse population? Let's explore that next. How diverse is the Australian cricket team, really? So, we've talked about the image problem, but what about the actual makeup of the team? Usman Khawaja pointed out a staggering fact in his interview. Nearly 99% of the more than 460 men who have played Test cricket for Australia have been white. That's not just a small oversight, it's a glaring issue that can't be ignored. Think about it. When you have a team that's almost entirely one race, what message does that send? It tells young, aspiring cricketers from diverse backgrounds that maybe this sport, this team, isn't for them. It's like walking into a room and realizing you're the only one who looks like you. It's uncomfortable, and it makes you question if you belong there at all. This isn't just about numbers or statistics, it's about the stories that aren't being told and the talents that aren't being discovered. It's about kids who grow up loving cricket but never see themselves in the baggy green. And it's about a sport that's missing out on enriching its own narrative by excluding diverse voices. So, if the team's makeup is this skewed, what does that say about the people who are making the decisions? Let's dig into that next. Is there a bias in Cricket Australia's selection process? After hearing about the lack of diversity on the team, you might be wondering, who's picking these players? Usman Khawaja didn't hold back in his interview. He talked about a subconscious bias that exists in cricket administration. When two players, one white and one brown, show the same level of skill, guess who gets picked? More often than not, it's the white player. This isn't just a theory, it's Khawaja's own experience. He's felt overlooked, even when his performance screamed for attention. It's like being the last one picked in a schoolyard game, not because you can't play, but because you don't fit the mold. This bias isn't just unfair, it's damaging. It adds a weight to the shoulders of players like Khawaja, a chip that says, you have to prove yourself twice as much. And let's not forget, this bias doesn't just affect the players. It trickles down to the fans, the future athletes, and the very soul of the sport. When the selection process is skewed, it perpetuates a cycle of exclusion, making it harder for the sport to evolve and for young talents to see cricket as a viable path. So, what happens when someone tries to break this cycle? Stay tuned to find out. What is Usman Khawaja doing to make a change? So, we've talked about the problems, but what about solutions? Usman Khawaja isn't just pointing out flaws, he's actively trying to fix them. He's engaging with Cricket Australia and reaching out to communities that are often left on the sidelines. It's like a local hero returning to his old neighborhood, not just to show off his success but to pave the way for others. Khawaja is using his platform in meaningful ways. He's part of Amazon Prime's series The Test, where he breaks down the walls of Australian cricket's inner sanctum. It's not just about letting cameras in, it's about letting new perspectives and fresh voices in. He's showing that the locker room can be a place for everyone, not just those who've always been there. And it's not just about the big gestures. Khawaja also talks to his teammates about the importance of diversity. It's like a family dinner where someone finally brings up the issue everyone's been avoiding. It might be uncomfortable, but it's necessary. So, with all this effort, is the landscape of Australian cricket finally changing? Let's dive into that next. Will the future of Australian cricket be more inclusive? We've journeyed through the issues, heard about the biases, and seen the efforts to make a change. But the big question remains, is the future looking any brighter? According to Usman Khawaja, progress has been made, but there's a long road ahead. It's like planting a seed and waiting for it to grow, you can't expect a full-blown tree overnight. Khawaja is clear about his love for Australia and cricket, but he's equally clear that he won't stay silent about the country's race problem. It's a delicate balance, like walking a tightrope. On one side, you have the love for a sport that has given you so much, and on the other, the responsibility to speak up for those who are still struggling to find their place. And let's not forget, this isn't just Khawaja's fight. It's a challenge for the entire cricketing community, from the fans to the administrators. When a sport is a national pastime, its issues are national issues too. The lack of diversity isn't just a stain on cricket, it's a stain on Australia's reputation as a multicultural society. So, as we wrap up this discussion, we're left with a sense of cautious optimism. Change is happening, but it's slow. The wheels are in motion, but will they turn fast enough to make cricket truly representative of modern Australia? That's the question we'll all be watching closely. Outro. Well, there you have it, folks. We've unpacked the complexities, heard from Usman Khawaja, and questioned the future of Australian cricket. It's a lot to think about, isn't it? So, what's your take? Do you see a more inclusive future for cricket down under? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below to join the conversation. And if this video got you thinking, go ahead and smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next deep dive. Until then, keep questioning and stay engaged.